Today, we will talk about XRP and SHX and talk about how each of these companies have either instituted or are instituting escrows and how that has and possibly could impact price. A couple of days ago, I had a comment on a post of mine that was kind of implying that the main contributor to the explosive price action of XRP in 2017 and 2018 was primarily only because of the implementation of the escrow account, which put about 55 billion XRP out of circulation. And it's not confirmed yet. However, it appears as if Stronghold has actually hinted that 60 out of the 100 billion SHX could end up in escrow, which has been alluded to here. And I will explain how that value was actually tossed out there. CoinMarketCap calls out that 5.8 billion SHX are in circulation. However, the self-reported, which is actually provided from Stronghold, is about 15 billion. About a month ago, there was some speculation on how much would actually end up in escrow, and I asked if it would be over or under 50 billion. And in response to that cryptic 60 winks post from Sean, he actually liked my response where I was presuming that it would actually end up over 50% of the supply. I don't think that the escrow itself will have that same huge 2017, 2018 XRP price impact on its own. And that's mainly because we are in a very different crypto economy right now. We've got stablecoin regulations about to hit. We've got the market structure legislation just starting its review right now. And a lot of things are much more mature compared to how it was in the past. However, I still think that combined with where we are at in the traditional crypto cycle at the moment, combined with how the regulatory environment is improving, especially for utility, I think that we could possibly see some pretty significant price impacts out of escrow. But then once we get into the second half of 2025 and 2026, to just explain how this 60 billion was actually tossed out there, Captain X put together some research and a little speculation and found that Stronghold has actually created 60 accounts on Stellar. And if you bind fact that in the lockup SNet contract, they had 1 million in each of the 10 accounts, and how Sean has actually alluded to the fact that it would be over 50 billion, it is possible that each of those 60 accounts would end up with 1 billion SHX each. So that is a little speculation. However, I speculate on a lot of things. I try to make it as realistic as possible. And Captain X also does. So I'm pretty comfortable with the assumption that we'll have somewhere around 60 billion SHX in escrow. And before I explain the price analysis and the price predictions on SHX, I have been asked how I actually purchase SHX and how I hold it. And I've primarily purchased mine on Stellar X, which is a native Stellar DEX. You can also get it on Stellar Term, which is the exact same kind of idea. And the really important thing for me has been it doesn't have any KYC because it's a DEX. So I just purchase XLM off of Uphold or wherever, send it to my account on Stellar X, I exchange it for SHX, and then I pull the SHX off into cold storage. And the exact same process applies to Velo as well. As far as storage goes, you can use the Lobster app. If you want to pursue that path, then I would have it on a standalone device that is preferably turned off except for when you're actually interacting on it. That, and to also get the Lobster Vault app, which essentially acts as a backup. And in order to perform a transaction on Lobster, you would have to confirm it in this app. And I would highly suggest to not have the two apps on the same device as well. I prefer to keep things in an actual hardware wallet if I can. And the easiest one in terms of Stellar Trust lines at the moment is the Decent Biometric. And they have a couple of articles on how to establish Stellar Trust lines online. So I won't explain it here. I've actually done a video on it in the past, and it is pretty straightforward. And it walks you through establishing it as well as activating it. Here is the main piece of content for today. So I used some AI to help me compare the price impacts of a potential Stronghold SHX escrow with the information that we are speculating on at the moment, and compare that to the price impacts that the XRP escrow has. And that is especially reasonable in my own opinion, because Stronghold is essentially a love child of Ripple and Stellar. So I am not only unsurprised at the fact that Stronghold is actually establishing an escrow, I would be unsurprised to see some pretty explosive price action as well. So in December 2017, the pre-escrow price of XRP was about 25 cents. And 1 week after that, it was 74 cents. In that cycle high, it did hit 384. However, I think that was only on a couple of exchanges, and it was pretty much due to liquidity. So I have seen that the true all-time high of XRP was in the high twos. However, that is not our point here. So our current price of SHX, we're at about 0.008 right now, and there's 15 billion in circulating supply. I hadn't actually checked the self-verified amount, and the last time I checked, it was actually at 14.7. The total is 100 billion. It is speculated that there's a potential to put about 60 billion in escrow, which would result in about 25 billion of uncirculated supply. And its current true market cap is about $120 million. So the whole tokenomic point of an escrow is to reduce the fear of having a company dump a bunch of coins on the market. And even though Stronghold had published a token emission schedule in like 2021, it was pretty conservative at that time. And if you combine that inherent conservatism with an escrow, it just helps even more. So if we had the same kind of about 200% price action, that would put us somewhere around about 2.5 cents up to a bit over 4. And if we have the same kind of an alt season performance as XRP had in 2017 and 2018, that would possibly end up in a total of a 10 to 15x off of current prices, with about 15 to 20% of that price increase because of escrow. The short-term post-escrow price impacts would possibly end up in between 2.5 and 4 cents. That would have our all-season peak if we compare it to 2017-2018 of about 8 cents up to 18 cents. And long-term, 2026 and on, it has it anywhere in between 6 cents and 30 cents. And I did get some feedback on this that I was really conservative. And if you combine where we're at in the crypto cycle right now with the expected regulatory clarity here in the US, and how involved Stellar has been with the history of crypto regulation here, and you add in how Stronghold is a combination of Ripple and Stellar, and how Stronghold has been purposefully extra conservative and everything, then I think that this 8 to 18 cents is probably pretty reasonable, if not on the low end of things. And this 2026 on, that's not even a topic that I am really thinking about a lot, but I don't see 30 cents as a long-term high for Stronghold, especially if we're talking about 2030.